So Gareth, I know, I think it might have been a couple months ago where we were on a call and Sebastian was like, he was just giving you all kinds of praise, and I know you were kind of humbled by it, where he's like, how many times has Gareth been to like one guy and he bounces back? And so I think part of you is like, dude, I don't want to be known as that guy who got down to one guy, several times over. But that's how Sebastian looks at you. I mean, that's the light that he has is this guy's got no quit in him. This guy is all about bouncing back. And I think it's fair to say that your bounce back really from COVID. I mean, you were in the same boat as most people. You went down to a really small core. I was with you when it was a really small core, and we were having, meetings over at my house, and there were three of us basically showing up. I mean, I don't think there's any looking back from that moment. I think you have bounced back and you're at a level that I don't think you're going to be returning to the one guy scenario. So anyway, tell us about you've got this reputation better than anybody. You know how to bounce back from really the ashes, Phoenix, bouncing back from nothing, reinventing yourself. What have you got to say? What tips, what process do you have when it comes to getting into the grind, swallowing your pride, getting back in the field, tying up the shoelaces of the work boots? What do you have for us?
So I'll address the moment when he said it, and I turned my screen off, my microphone off, and I flicked him the bird. Um, I don't know if humbled is the right, just mad. I was pissed off that was a reputation, and then as I had some time to reflect, like the ability to endure um, is a badge that I wear now with a lot of pride. And I think and I don't. There's this phrase I've been saying lately. It's the "this too shall pass." When things are really bad and you're down in the dumps and nothing seems to be going right, this will pass. And when times are good and seems like nothing can go wrong, this too shall pass. And I think that perspective has given me a lot of wisdom. And I think um, it may not happen, but I'm prepared if it does. I think that's probably the best. I don't know if advice, but comment that I can make on that. Um, Being able to bounce back is a really cool thing to be able to do. I do. I used to really enjoy those phone calls. It's like, hey, I've got this guy on my team and he's doing really poorly. You're the guy who got out of it. So can you get on a phone call with him? And I do like the fact that I have a reputation of being able to rise from the ashes, which is interesting because my team name when I was in the field was the Phoenix. It's just that it was more we you can't kill us rather than rising from the ashes, but it's kind of turned into that. My perspective from that time coming out of COVID to now, I think it's one of my best runs I've had for sure, and it's something I'm really proud of. But I couldn't have done it around, without the supporting staff, you being one of those people. And I think the biggest thing was I took myself off that island and I humbled myself to when I wasn't doing well. I was reaching out to anybody and everybody who would be willing to support me with kind words, with support, with systems that I could steal, letting me join their virtual offices or their physical offices to where I could learn and figure out what holes I had in my game. I was jumping on a program I'd never been on before. Um, and I think my age has really helped me with the wisdom of going, I don't know everything. I'm where I am for a reason and I got to get out of it. And there was no other option. So there's my long winded answer to that question.
Well, what's interesting is like I think when we all get down, right, when we've got small crews, and even somebody who's really good at the business, after you promote a couple deals and your top people leave to go run their own office, you're vulnerable, and we could all easily get down to like you know a 3-4 person crew here. And I think we all know that, okay, if I call somebody for advice, if I call Brandy, if I call Ed, if I call, anybody, they're going to say, well, listen, are you going to the field? Are you setting the pace? You don't have a white rabbit. You got to become that white rabbit. So I think people know that. And sometimes they're reluctant to even like reaching out because they kind of know the playbook that they're going to hear, and they might not want to hear that. I know for me, when I was in that position, I did not want to hear that. I was looking for, well, what else is there? Like there's got to be something else. But you are not afraid to get back out there and do it. Now I know part of it is you are competent at sales. I've seen you in the field, like you're really good. And many times I'd go into the store with you, I'd be like, Gareth, you got to teach these little things that you do that I think some people don't even really, they're not really even aware of. But I think everybody that becomes an owner had to have gotten really good at sales. But for some reason, people like, well, I haven't been in the field in so long, I've kind of lost it. And they're kind of reluctant to getting back out there and doing it. So where's your like either drive or motivation or willingness to get back in the field and do it and to grind?
Um, it's a good question. It's the age-old question is how to get out of the field, right? Like my move to Minnesota, I was not naive to the fact that I was going to have to not even put the bootstrap, but show what I'm capable of. And I'm proud of that skill I've learned and I have the ability to, I have no fear of income because I can make whatever I need whenever I feel like it. That's how strong I've managed. I got a lot of, years under my belt, a lot of experience. But I think the biggest mistake, I was having this conversation with Airbay not too long ago, and he asked me, how is it that you know owners go out of business? Like, how is that even possible? Like it's a mythical thing, or the reasons why. Well, the answer is they stopped doing what got them there, right? They stopped making good decisions in a row, and I had a sit down conversation with my wife, and we had a little girl and a son on the way. We had to have like a very serious conversation that my wife was virtually going to be a single mom. For my goal was 6 months, and it ended up taking me 18 months. But I'm going to be full time. I have to re-promote myself to assistant manager, and I felt that with my skill and my experience, I'd be able to do it in a pretty short period of time. Miscalculated, but that didn't deter me from the result. And we had a really good chat, and it was my wife didn't ask me what time I was coming home because the answer was always the same: it's when the job's done. And I couldn't tell you less things that I wanted to do as a new dad than be standing in a Target as a 40-year-old man working my ass off. It was, I wanted to be a dad, is what I wanted to do. But I also knew that if I made that decision with the intentions of doing it because it's the right thing to do, not because I have to do it. And that translated to, I was full time in the field till we had 20 humans selling. We were already doing a $20,000 wire, and I was still full time in the field. And then it just got to a point where, one of the coolest feelings in the world is like me going to the field was hurting my guys' growth and their ability to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And even then, I was reluctant to come out because I was good at it and I was making all this extra money and everything was kind of going my way. And I'm not surprised. I earned every penny of my promoting owner's bonus, of every wire that I've gotten, because I was willing to sacrifice for as long as it took. My target goal was off, but I was willing to put in the work regardless of the result. And it was hard. It wasn't easy. Home life was hard. Being a missing dad for a bit was tough, but I was there for my business, which has now translated to my ability to relocate my family where I want to live. I haven't missed a single thing of my son since he was really young. I get to be at all my daughter's dance recitals and take her to practice. I drop them off and pick them up from school every day. And it really was a 18-month sacrifice to where, and I'm fully aware that I know that I can do that again. And that's a really small sacrifice in the grand scheme of things in order to put Humpty Dumpty back on the wall. But I do know you're right. People are reluctant to do the right thing. I read a book, and it's a weird book, but it's called The Power of Now. And that book was a big changing point for me. It was, when my brain says, here's what you're supposed to do, as opposed to trying to sell myself out of it, I just go do it. My alarm goes off, I get up, put my feet on the floor so the devil looks up and says, "Oh shit, he's awake." I get up with intention. If I'm, my wife said one day we're gonna start eating healthier next week, and I just got up, went to the fridge, and started throwing everything that was bad for me, us away. She was like, "What are you doing? It's next week." I'm like, "No, now. We're not waiting." And so that that I stayed educated during the whole process. I started doing a gratitude journal. I did things that I had never done before to really level up my game during that challenging time, and I think that has, for whatever it's worth, translated to something pretty special.
Yeah, I've always found it interesting, like when you have to make that decision. To me, that's the actual doing part is easier, I think, than making the decision that, okay, you know what, the next 6 months I got to do it. And it's like, I think some people look at it like it's like well, for the next 20 years, this is what my schedule is going to look like, right? Like that's not the decision in front of us. It's a short-term decision. It's just, listen, I'm going to make the decision to turn the rudder, which will eventually turn the ship, in the right direction here. But it really is a short-term decision. Just some people grapple with it as if it's like a career decision, like for the next 20 years, this is what I'm going to have to do. And even in the grand scheme of things, to your point, it took 18 months, which was longer than you thought. I was talking to Matt Osborne too in Dallas, and he's like, gee, I thought, getting back in the saddle, running a deal would take a year. He goes, and now that I'm kind of in the process, it's like 2 years. It's 2 years to get to where I want to go, which
Yeah.
again, in the grand scheme of things, is a blip on the radar. And so I think we all got to look at it that way. It really is short-term pain for that long-term,
Well, if
advantage.
like if I'm being totally honest, that wasn't painful. One, I learned how to get really good at it. I was, financially, if you're good and you're in the field and you're in the ownership position and you're receiving, you're getting a pay structure that is really tough to compete with if you're strong. And it was painful. The decision, the doing it part turned into just, it got
Right,
to a point where my wife, when I didn't have to go to the field, she would be like, "Okay, you can't work tomorrow. I need you to, fill in the blank, whatever it is that you need to do." Cause she's like, "I know you don't. I see your financials. Like, I know you don't need to do that shit anymore." But I got to a point where, everybody's really good in the field and he would be doing really well. And I'm like, I got to chip that down. Like, he doesn't, he's not, he shouldn't be beating me. And that was really a tough pill for me to swallow. And it got to a point where I got really good at it and it was fun and it wasn't a chore. It wasn't a negative at all. And, um, and to be honest with you, being an example for those people, like we promoted 3 deals this last 12 months, like all of them saw me doing it. Like they all saw me grinding and, working my tail off. And it wasn't like a bad thing. It was like, I'm going to kick your ass today, just so you're aware. And, it was that feeling I had when I was in the field and I was doing really well and I was catching lots of momentum. I was just getting paid a bonkers amount more money to do it. So I don't know why it's viewed as a negative because it's not. It's not a negative at all,
right,
like at all.
right. No,
I'm
exactly.
proud of what we do, and I don't want anybody to feel that works for me or it works for anybody that it is beneath them because, I'm watching some of the payroll and some of these guys. I watched somebody with a 200 and something $1,000 payroll who was an entry-level sales representative selling cell phones. Like, that's crazy. Or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, good call out there. It's like the old saying of the hardest door to open is the car door.
Yeah.
Like opening on once you're in the field, it's like, going to the gym is the hardest part. But once you're in the gym, like, all right, I'm already here, let's work on, then you feel great about it. But it's that mental anguish on I don't want to, I just want to sleep in. We screw ourselves up mentally so often, but
Yeah.
to your point, it's not that tough.
Once I got that momentum going, it was just like I was back in the field and doing what I was doing. And,
Right.
it was just it was what I got into in the first place. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. So before I open up for Q&A, the one other reputation, right? So you got the reputation of being a phoenix, rising from the ashes, and I like your attitude about it now because I know before you didn't want to be known as that guy, but it is a badge of honor to your point. The other reputation is you are a phenomenal recruiter. As an owner, you know how to ramp up headcount quickly. Like if we had to do a contest where like we throw you in a new market, like there's all these reality TV shows. So let's just say we take 10 owners in Sidcor, throw you in a market with one guy and say, okay, go nuts, first to 20 wins. Chances are you're going to be the first to 20. So I know you
Yep.
get really nerdy, you get very methodical, I believe you like to write your own ads, you like to place your own ads, but kind of walk us through your giftedness when it comes to your ability to scale.
Okay, so yes, I do. I would consider this my superpower. Is I understand the machine. I understand what it takes in order um, to put high head count in an office, and it is something that I take a lot of pride in because I do believe that we're not only just in the sales business, but we're in the recruiting business, and my philosophy is I just want to work with a bunch of awesome people. And so that is the foundation of why I got into this business. I worked in corporate America to begin with. I have never left a job in my life because of the job. I've always left because the people suck. This business was so attractive to me because I get to work with the people that I want to work with, not the people that I have to work with. So we'll start with that piece. Now, with writing ads, and I started in the business a very long time ago. So there were no ad writers. There was nobody placing ads for me. There was nobody writing ads for me. There was nobody. I was my own recruiter for a while. I was my own hub. And at the time, just like as a kid, having to do chores and my father making me, we had a PQS chore sheet. It was like, I'd mow the lawn. It stands for Performance Qualification Standards, a military thing. And I mowed the lawn, and then if I showed it to him and I didn't do it properly, he wouldn't sign it and I had to keep mowing. So I hated that as a kid, but ultimately it's really taught me and given me a really good foundation that not only do I know it, but I know it really well. So I nerd out on all the boards. I know all the code, how it works. I'm a computer science nerd. So I know how, I know I learned pretty quickly as an owner that I don't need them to find me. I need to find them. So my ads are all based around the people that I want to spend my life with. I'm at work more than I'm anywhere. So I want to make sure I'm looking for the right humans. I write the ads that are mine. Everybody was asking me the other day, he was like, hey, can you help me write an ad? No, you write your own. You're going to write your own because I want you to attract your people. I don't want you to attract my people. That's the sexiest part of this business. You get to work with your people. And when I'm posting ads, I'm posting, I'm nerding out on what age bracket do I want to work with. So mine's 18 to 35. So I am googling like what are the zip codes in my market that have the highest percentage of people that are in those zip codes. If I've got competitors, I'm posting literally right on top of them. I'm nerding out on virtually everything. I sit in a room with my recruiter. I hear exactly what she says. She hears exactly what I say. We can correct one another, making sure everything is aligned. I Yeah, I nerd out like crazy on this stuff. It is I spend a lot of time. I'm Tampa now, so I'm trying to nerd out on what's the best play here. I haven't figured it out in the first 24 hours, but give me 72 more hours, I'll have it sorted.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've talked to, I had this subject in Dallas talking with people like, as owners, what should we outsource and what should we own, right? Like as you grow your business, right? Like, I heard many years ago, like, hey, what can you automate? What can you eliminate? And what can you delegate? I'm like, ooh, that's good questions. Like I want to be efficient. So what should I automate, eliminate, delegate? And some people just delegate all of the recruiting pieces, right? Like again, if we really talk this through, there's, I don't know, 10 different pieces of recruiting. And so I think we would all say recruiting is a wildly important function of our companies. Who are the new recruits? I mean, every college would say the same thing. Recruiting is a major part of our business model here. Every sports team, getting the right athletes on the squad. Um, but if you outsource it all, you might really be handicapped. In your case, you're kind of owning a lot of the pieces that many people are outsourcing.
Well, I'm not saying you can't outsource it. I can, but I also know that I can coach because I understand it really well. So I know that if I'm getting a good bang for my buck, if I do decide to outsource it, while I'm kind of putting things together here in Florida, I'm not outsourcing anything, zero, until I understand the metrics behind it, what is good, what isn't. I have this. I read a book not long ago. It's called "The Four Executions of Discipline," and it's like the first one is a WIG, a wildly important goal. And so my goal is I got to master recruiting, and then the next piece of it is what are your lead actions, like what are the things that you need to do in order to get to that result. What's the scoreboard? That's number three, and then accountability is on the bottom end. So I don't know yet, but I will know exactly what good looks like, and then I'll be able to manage according to that. But I'll own all of it. Recruiting. I'm an old school dude. We make phone calls. We follow up with all the technology, but we make phone calls first. That's kind of front line because it's weird. It's not what people do anymore, and I want to be different. I want to be different than everybody else. I'm also figuring out what my competitors are doing. What days do you recruit? What days do you hire? I'm going to do it the day before. What time are you making phone calls? We're going to do it a couple hours before you do. Are you recruiting on the weekends? Probably not. And if that case, I'm going to. I'm just going to make sure I check all the boxes that I feel that are the most important. And to be honest with you, none of it's rocket science. It's going back to that, should I go to the field? It's like, should you understand your recruiting? It's like understanding your payroll. If you don't understand your payroll, that's how you lose money. I know how much my business, at least in Minnesota, I can tell you how much it costs per human that shows up in my, like, per second round, per interview that I do. I can tell you how much that costs me to the penny. And my goal is to reduce that number and increase the number and decrease the price. And I'm always thinking about how I can move those two needles, and that translates to my cost started off in Minnesota. It was about $280 is what it cost me per new start. Now I've got it down to about $63, just over $63 is what it cost me per new start. You think about that percentage and what it cost me to bring a human in and what I've managed to decrease because I figured it out. I figured out which ads get better bang for my buck with less cost. I know where to put them now, which means I don't have to spend as much money to get the numbers that I'm looking for. I know the ads that pull great. I know where they pull. I know when they don't pull. I know why. Yeah, I analyze the crap out of all that stuff. And, I've been I've just been spending money in Tampa for the last 4 months, not hiring anybody, just trying to get numbers and get some numbers and, with a couple people with some delayed starts, but ultimately just to get the analytics to where when I turn the key, we're off to the races. I turned the key on 72 hours ago. We have 5 new starts this Wednesday. Took me 3 days. But that took me months of figuring out the numbers. Like, it's what's important. And it's, I was doing that while I was full time in the field as well. I just do it at night. I sit with my computer and I plug in the numbers, figure out what works. I Google a ton. I watch a lot of videos on recruiting, what makes people tick, what are the best recruiting companies in your market, why are they so good, and I figure out what it is. What are some of the benefits that we have the ability as a small company to offer that's going to move the needle just a little bit, that's going to make me more appetizing than the next person. In Minnesota, we recruited against Julia Zamuda. She's one of the best recruiters I've seen as a rookie. She's amazing. You know what she called me today? She called me today. She's like, "Hey, I'd really love to spend some time with you when you're back in Minnesota, just so I can observe how you're coaching your guys in your one-on-ones." I'm not surprised why she's doing so well, right? She's just constantly learning and getting better, and she's putting herself in front of, I've been doing this a long time, so she's seen me doing it. She wants to learn how to get better, and I think her promoting owners bonus back-to-back years is over 100 grand twice. And that's somebody who is still learning and trying to figure things out. That's that's pretty cool. Being a learn it all, you will be set forever if you constantly are the stupidest person in the room.
Yeah, it's clear you have an expertise. I wonder how many owners actually do know. Like, do you know your cost per hire? Now, it's easy to calculate. You can have a conversation with your hub, but But yeah, like, I mean, you can't manage what you aren't measuring. So that probably is something important to measure. And what can we do as a little army, me, my recruiter, my hub, what can we
Yeah.
do? Again, you're saying you went from 280 down to 63, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I mean, that's unbelievable. Like great efficiency, great performance, and you're getting a bang for your buck when it comes to what you're spending on Indeed and, the other sites.
Yeah. Look, the the business is something I take a lot of passion in. It's really important that we get really good at it. And ultimately, it's sales and recruiting. And if you can master those two things, it's not complicated unless you make it complicated. So I want to know everything that's going on. I send a goal sheet out to my coaches every week and it has all my statistics, my financials, my everything. So if I'm missing something, I'm going to hear about it. And, you know, I, to Sebastian's original point, I kept going from here to here to here to here to here to here. And, I deserved every time I went to here. I knew everything, I knew it all. I made it. This too shall pass. And I am fully prepared for the fall. I am ultimately very prepared for it not to happen.
Yeah. And one of Brandon's great quotes in Dallas, with all the success he had in 23, so what? Now what? Right? I just
Yeah,
love that.
that's
Like,
great.
so what? Now
Yeah,
what?
my dad's quotes from back in the day was some will, some won't, so what next?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's good. That's real good.
All right, we got time for one question. Who's got the magical one question for Gareth? We kind of hit time. Really, I only had those two questions for you, and you took up the whole space. But I
Yeah,
mean,
sorry.
I see the emojis of the little fire. Apparently, this is all fire here, Gareth. So great job.
I don't even know what that means.
It's all fire, Gareth. It's all
All
fire.
right, Dean.
Gareth, what are you I want to know what you're doing with that promoting owner bonus check, man.
That's funny. When you were saying that, I was like, man, I need to call some of those people who got those and ask them what they're going to do with it. I'm just going to put it somewhere that, earns me 5%. And, maybe I'll put it towards a home. Maybe I'll, use that money to promote 5 or 6 more deals. Um, how can I turn that 150,000 into $1 million is really what I'm thinking. So, um, originally my plan was to use it to put on as down payment on the house, and now, there's $1 million on the line, Dean, and I think I can probably use my recruiting superpower and put some of that money towards building an absolute empire in Tampa, Florida, my home, where I'm from, and I feel pretty confident that I can turn that 150 into a million. But for now, it's going to make me 5% for a little bit.
I like it.
Yeah,
Love
slow
it.
and steady. Yeah, I'm boring. I'm not going to buy a Ferrari. Not yet.
Turn into a million is not boring. It sounds
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah. That's what I sat down and had a really cool like beer with my dad last night, and we're talking about it, and he's like, what's the play? And I was like, I got to turn 150,000 bucks into a million in the next 3 years. So that's my plan. So now how I do that right now, plug it in somewhere. It's going to sit. It's going to earn me at least 5%, maybe more, and we're going to invest a lot of that money into building an empire. That's my plan. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
great job, Gareth. Great 2023 and an amazing 2024 ahead of us here, huh?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to make it happen, baby. All right. I love you all.
All right, thanks, guys. See you next week.